Hey everyone, how's it going? I hope you're all doing well as usual. So back today with another video, and it's another edition of black metal vinyl. So if you've been watching this series, you'll recall that the last one I did, I completed the letter H, bands starting with H. So today I'm beginning with I, so you can probably guess some of the bands involved. There's actually two of my favorites of all time really. So just as a forewarning, with these albums, I have shown them in various threads and contests, or one of them in a collection update. And I've also talked, one of the bands is Immortal, so I've already talked about all of these albums on CD. So you'll be relieved to know that today I'm not going to go into as much detail. These aren't going to be album reviews, but more of a show and tell. But what I will do is link the videos where I talked about my Immortal CDs and Impaled Nazarene as well. So if you miss those, you can go and watch the detailed reviews if you're interested. Today is more of just a quick overview and showing you the vinyl format. So yeah, so as you probably heard me mention before, if there's an album that I really like, I often own it on CD and vinyl, because like a vinyl is a special trophy, a tribute to that album. So that's why it's the case with a lot of these. So yeah, two bands I'm going to talk about, Immortal and Impaled Nazarene, two of my favorites, as I said. So just showing you the vinyl format, and as I said, you can check the video links for the detailed reviews of these albums on CD. Anyway, enough rambling, we'll get started. So starting with Immortal, just going in chronological order, this is my vinyl copy of Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism. You may have heard me say this is actually my favorite Immortal album of all time. A lot of people disagree with that. This one has a very sort of Bathory feel and vibe, especially with the mid-paced tempos, the acoustic guitars and that kind of thing. But I just love it because it's so incredibly atmospheric. There are also some icy keyboards, which the band sort of avoided on albums after this one actually. So it was sort of the end of an era, even though it was the first album. But yeah, I just love those atmospheric elements like the acoustic guitars and the keyboards. It just gives it variety. And I really like the raw, murky production on this album. And the vocals, it just sounds so eerie and sinister. So like sort of, yeah, just submerged in dark, murky depths. It's really got that fantastic atmosphere. And I think this is the most atmospheric Immortal album ever done, actually. So yeah, this is when the band was still a three-piece. So Abath, Demonaz, and Armageddon on drums, who was only the drummer of this album. It looks like he was going for the Abaddon image, Abaddon from Venom, with the curly hair and the aviation sunglasses. But yeah, really good album. Like I said, it's not, well, the next couple of albums were blisteringly fast, then the band turned into a mid-pace band, but this one's sort of like straight ahead mid-pace, but very atmospheric, very catchy. Like pretty much all of the songs on this album are great, but probably my favorites are Unholy Forces of Evil, absolutely fantastic, as well as Cold Winds of Funeral Dust and A Perfect Vision of the Rising Northland. That's the epic closing track, absolutely brilliant. But like all of the other tracks are really good as well, like Call of the Winter Moon, Cryptic Winter Storms, and Blacker Than Darkness. Yeah, and I think I've already mentioned this, but I'll just say it again. What's also interesting about this is the album's sort of driven by the rhythm section, especially the sound of the bass, whereas the guitar is more like a snowstorm effect over the top, but really interesting. And there's also a few guitar solos on this album as well, so that's something that the band eschewed later on, generally speaking. But yeah, here's the cover, photographed at Lucerkloster, which is, how do you describe it? A crypt just outside of Bergen, the town in Norway. And actually when I was over there a few years ago, I went with some friends to see this in daylight. So incredibly atmospheric. It's in the middle of the countryside, these ancient stone ruins, and next to a forest, which looks like the forest on the back of the Dark Throne shirt of Transylvanian Hunger, Ferda Sin, very atmospheric. So I can only imagine what it would have been like to get dressed up at night with corpse paint and breathing fire down here. Very atmospheric. It would have been ritualistic. Here's the back, and like I said, because this is a show and tell, I'll give you the visuals. So, yep. Sorry, it's a very glossy cover, but you have all of the lyrics here, written by Demonaz, I think, and then this interesting painting, which is kind of cool. That kind of sums up the atmosphere within this album, definitely. And it comes on a colored vinyl, which is consistent with the album cover. Yeah, so this nice, dark, rich red, blood red, maybe, with the old logo, but very cool. Yeah, so this is, yeah, like I said, my favorite Immortal album, and definitely worthy of owning on vinyl for sure. So I've had this vinyl copy for quite a few years, but well deserved because it's an absolutely classic album. So Immortal with Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism. All right. Okay, up next, so we're doing these in chronological order. The next album in Immortal's discography is, of course, the absolute classic, Pure Holocaust. So from Diabolical Fullmoon was 1991. This one came out in 1993, I think. And this is the very first Immortal album I ever bought. So back in the day, and you may have heard me tell this story, but I'll just tell it again in case you've missed it. But the very first black metal album I bought, or my mum bought for me actually, was In the Nightside Eclipse by Emperor. And this was the second one I bought, you know, shortly after that, a few months. Very different to Emperor, of course, especially on this album because there's no keyboards. The sound of this album is very different to Diabolical Fullmoon, Mysticism as well, in the sense that it's a lot faster, the speeds are blistering, it's very aggressive, and because the riffs are so incredibly fast, they have all this kind of snowstormy, icy feeling, but the drums are absolutely pummeling, and it's absolutely brilliant. So all guitar-oriented, no keyboards at all, but except for on the track As the Eternity Opens, they have some keyboards in the background, but other than that, this is a much more sort of like belligerent, violent approach in comparison to Diabolical Fullmoon, Mysticism. But yeah, absolutely classic and timeless. This is one of those albums where I know every iota of the music because I've just heard it so many times. And I think I may have mentioned this as well, but the first song I heard from this album was Unsilent Storms in the North Abyss. I mean, that's the first song, but I heard it on community radio back in 1994, I think, you know, the days when it was, see everyone, younger viewers, this is before the time where you could just like Google something, look it up on the internet or look it up on YouTube. You had to go out of your way to find this music. So I listened to it on community radio, and the announcer in Australia said, a band called Immortal there, and that's from their album Pure Holocaust. Amazing to think that at that time, he was sort of saying it in that context where they were unknown, but now they're one of the household names in black metal, so well established. But yeah, great nostalgia, absolutely brilliant album. And again, they're all fantastic. Like the opening track is a classic as the first one I heard. I also love A Sign for the Norse Hordes to Ride, great atmosphere with the guitars. The Sun No Longer Rises is one of my favorite songs because it's got a kind of mid-paced Bathory-esque feel and it's very atmospheric and eerie, absolutely fantastic. But then it also gets up to blistering, pummeling paces as well with the drums. Frozen by Ice Winds is incredibly atmospheric as well, especially with that warped guitar solo at the end. It really makes you feel as if you're, I don't know, encased in an ice wind, in a snowstorm. You know, like, it's hard to explain, but just listen to it. It's incredibly hypnotic and atmospheric. I just love it. Then over on side 2, we have Storming Through Red Clouds and Holocaust Winds. As I said, not one of my favorite tracks because it's kind of a bit awkward and jolted, but it's worth it for the title alone, Storming Through Red Clouds and Holocaust Winds. And there are some good riffs in it as well. Then we have Eternal Years on the Path to the Cemetery Gates, which has got a very sort of like groovy mid-paced rhythm, which I really enjoy. So that's cool. So they, apart from the pummeling, belligerent, blistering parts, they also have some groovy and mid-paced parts on this album. So there's a lot of variety. As the Eternity Opens, that's kind of a Bathory-esque track as well because it's like a mid-pace. And as I said, they add some keyboards for atmosphere at the end of the song. And then the final track, the title track, Pure Holocaust, absolutely amazing, like pummeling and blistering, but with some very catchy riffs. And just for the record, no, the title has nothing to do with World War II. And if you read the lyrics, yeah, this is all like fantasy based about, you know, the what would later become the fantasy kingdom of Blashir and Ravendark, everything like that. But absolutely brilliant album. It indicates that it's a 3-piece, but it was not. So you have Demonaz on guitars, Abath bass and vocals, and they credit Eric for playing the drums, but in actual fact he didn't. It was Abath on the drums, just like in Battles in the North, sorry. So yeah, Eric, he played in other bands, I think like Gorgoroth perhaps, and sadly a few years later he would end up committing suicide. I think he also rehearsed for Emperor, but they didn't click very well or something. So, but I think that's right, Eric played for Gorgoroth. But anyway, rest in peace, Eric. Absolutely fantastic album. Just show you this, it comes in a gatefold. So with the slogan, Sons of Northern Darkness, and all of the lyrics. By the way, back in the day, I used to have the t-shirt of this and I wore it until it just fell apart basically. But yeah, brilliant imagery on this one. They've just gone to the straight black and white, and showing you the vinyl. I think I got this one from, who did I get from? Hell's Headbangers, I think. Yeah, it comes on this beer colored vinyl, which is kind of original. I mean, I would have been happy with plain black on this, but I think the only options available were this one and something else. But I thought, yeah, beer yellow or beer amber, whatever you want to call it, that's interesting. Again, nothing to do with the actual cover, but oh well. So yeah, absolutely essential Immortal album. Like the first three, which I'm showing today, they are my favorite albums by Immortal, and in my book, absolutely essential, of course. Yeah, so that's Immortal's second album, the vinyl version with Pure Holocaust. All right, so you know what's coming next. We're still talking about Immortal. Yep, up next we have Immortal with Battles in the North, which came out in 1995. So you can see here the band is clearly a two-piece again. And again, this takes a slightly different direction. Like the first time I heard this, which was 1995 or 1996, I think, I didn't get into this one at first, actually. And you probably know why, because it seemed absolutely pummeling, relentless, and chaotic, which it absolutely is. Extremely belligerent and violent, like blistering drumming. Everything's just blasting at 1,000,000 miles an hour, and some very sort of complex riffs in this. So it's seemingly, upon first listen, it may be seemingly impenetrable, you know, orally speaking. But if you give it some time, it's just a very sort of complex arrangement. So if you're new to black metal, I wouldn't recommend starting with this album, because it would have seemed very chaotic and often spiraling out of control, particularly the drumming. Like sometimes the drumming is a bit out of time in this, because it's just going so fast that you hear Abbott sort of lose control, like a bit like Judas Iscariot or something. But generally speaking, the overall sound, it's got this really sort of this swagger and rawness about it, which is excellent. And when you give this album a proper chance after listening to it a few times, you begin to identify the riffs, but below all the blasting drumming and everything, and it's actually very catchy. So this is one that just continues to grow on me, really, and I do like it a lot. For some stupid reason, I think, no, actually this seems that the track listing may be slightly out of order on this vinyl version, and I don't understand how companies fuck up the order of the tracks, you know, when they go to all the time to print and press it and everything, but oh well. So I'm just going to read the tracks in. I think these are generally in order, so it doesn't matter anyway. But yeah, Battles in the North is a great opening track. See, yeah, it is out of order here. And then Grim and Frostbitten Kingdoms, an absolutely classic track. And by the way, speaking of Frostbitten, that's what I was going to say. The production on this album, when you're listening to it, it makes you feel like you're in the eye of a snowstorm. Like the drums are very loud in the mix, but it just, with the guitars, the combination of the drums and the guitars, it just has this really raw, frostbitten sound, which is very harsh, like the biting cold snow in winter, which is completely appropriate since this is what they're going for. Yeah, so Grim and Frostbitten Kingdoms, absolutely fantastic track. Great video clip of that with Hellhammer on drums, of course. Then I'm just testing my knowledge of the order of tracks. What's Oh yeah, Descent into Eminent Silence. Yeah, absolutely fantastic track. And even the production on that, it even sounds like there's people distantly humming in the background, but that's just the way it actually sounds. And then Thrown by Black Storms, absolutely brilliant track. And I like the part where ABBA says "From the Throne of the North" and the vocals go really low. Then we have Moonrise Fields of Sorrow, which is a blistering, fast-paced track. Excellent drumming, really fast, frantic riffs. I just love that song and the lyrics. Give Unto Me Never-Ending Snowfall. Cursed Realm of the Winter Demons is another one I got into recently. Well, sorry, I've got into it more and more. Like it starts with that sort of tranquil, clean guitar intro, and then it goes absolutely pummeling and blasting, but there's some groovy sections. So there is some groove underlying all of this. Like you can hear it in the riffs if you detach that from the pummeling drumming. Then what comes after Cursed Realms of the Winter Demons? I think, yeah, now, I don't think I've mentioned this before, but the tracks on side 2 never used to grab me so much, apart from Blashek Mighty Ravendark, which is the last track. That's a mid-paced, very catchy track, very famous song by the band, and a very good one. But like, I'm talking about songs like Circling Above in Time Before Time and Through the Halls of Eternity. Yeah, they were those two songs in particular. I never got into them much, but as I've listened to this more and more on vinyl, I've actually started to really enjoy those songs. So yeah, like I said, if you're new to black metal or new to Immortal, I wouldn't recommend starting with this one because it's seemingly very chaotic and pummeling and relentless. But once you've listened to those earlier albums, yeah, you'll probably really enjoy this one. I know a lot of people disliked it, and I do understand, because for some people it sounded too chaotic, but when you're in the right frame of mind, it's a great album to listen to. So I really like this one. Just show you the cover here. Again, all the tracks are listed out of order, so in this gatefold, but you have all of the lyrics, again written by Demonaz. I love that shot of the band there. And just showing you the vinyl itself, because it's pretty cool. Yep, so here we have it. It comes on this marbled, splattered white and grey vinyl, which is kind of fitting to fit the atmosphere of the snow, I think, and winter and so on. So very cool, except yeah, I do like side B better than side A in terms of the design, because this one's looking a bit empty. But yeah, very cool. So with these three albums, I would say they're my top three Immortal albums, and sort of in descending order, as in my top one is Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism, second favorite, Pure Holocaust, and third favorite, Battles in the North. But all three of these, in my opinion, are absolutely essential and classic. Now, everyone will know that the fourth album by Immortal was Blizzard Beasts. I don't actually own that one on vinyl, but as you may have heard me mention in my CD edition when I was talking about Immortal, yeah, I think, Blizzard Beasts is my fifth favorite album, because then Damned in Black actually takes a spot in front of that. But Blizzard Beasts is a great album, and I mean, at the end of the day, we don't really need these vinyls, do we? Like, I try to avoid saying, I need this, or that's essential. Like, not really essential, but of course, it's a hobby that we enjoy. So yeah, I wouldn't mind getting Blizzard Beasts on vinyl, but don't have it yet. But then the next album, which I do have by Immortal on vinyl, is At the Heart of Winter. Okay, so this marked a transition in the band. So Demonaz had to leave the band at this point because he had tendonitis in his arms from playing too fast and not warming up and before rehearsals properly. I think that's what happened anyway. So Demonaz became the band's manager, and Abbott took over on guitar. So Abbott was bass and vocals. On this album, he was guitar, bass and vocals. And it saw the addition of a new drummer, Hogg, who is absolutely brilliant, and also played in Hypocrisy and various other bands, I think. But yeah, this album marked a stylistic shift where basically the first four albums actually were just absolutely, well, not the first one, but 2, 3, and 4 were extremely fast and relentless and blistering. Whereas this one saw the band slowing down a lot more to some like groovier, more mid-paced and catchier songs, which is not a bad thing at all. Like, the guitar tone sounds very 80s metal, and I think Abbott said it reminded him in some respects of Creator. But just a new spin on the band, which actually worked really well. So much so that I would say most people, I always hear people saying this is their favorite album by Immortal. A lot of people say this is their favorite. And I totally get it, because they're very well crafted, catchy songs, and I really like this album. But for me, I just prefer, because I started with this band from the beginning, I prefer that characteristic, really fast sound. But having said that, this album is still really good and I enjoy it. Each track clocks in on average about 6 to 8 minutes, so it's much more epic. And like I said, mid-paced, but just very catchy, and the songs are more memorable than the earlier albums. But I really liked the character of those early albums. So, oh, and also even in this, like, the guitar's very melodic. Like in that opening track, Withstand the Fall of Time, like, you hear these riffs now which you can hum along to a lot more. Solar Fall is an absolutely brilliant track. I love the clean guitars in that song, which make for so much atmosphere. And when I saw the band at Wacken in 2000, Solar Fall was absolutely brilliant to see live. Tragedy's Blows at Horizon, so grammatically incorrect there. But then again, my Norwegian is shit, so I'm not going to criticize them there. But Tragedy's Blows at Horizon, very catchy mid-paced song. And Where Dark and Light Don't Differ, I really like the guitar melodies in that song, and the solo is absolutely awesome, so I really like that. Then you have the title track, At the Heart of Winter. That sees the return of keyboards. It's got this very slow, epic intro, but it makes you picture being in this particular scenario as depicted on the front cover. So great song as well. And then I really like Years of Silent Sorrow, the last track. Like, it's a bit melancholic and a bit depressing, but that's what black metal's about. Yeah, so just a very well produced, this was the first album to be produced by Peter Tegtren from Hypocrisy and Abyss Studios, so for good clean production. But it's good because that clear production brings out the catchiness of these songs, I would say. So yeah, I understand why it's the favorite album of so many people, but for me there are just the earlier albums I like more, but this is still absolutely fantastic, don't get me wrong. So picture of the band on the back and all the tracks. Now you'll see here, this comes in a gatefold. Yep, so Abbott and Hog there and all of the lyrics. And this is when, it's not as bad on this one, but if you see in the CD version, they did some really goofy, silly poses for this. And I'm not one of those people who says you can't have a sense of humor if you like black metal. I do have a sense of humor, in case you haven't noticed. But I think when a band's doing art like this, when they start making it really silly, it's just that, it's a bit silly. So, you know, I much prefer this kind of imagery to, not the one they're showing here, but there's one of Hog in the CD version, and he's got his arms stretched out. He looks absolutely ridiculous. But anyway, it's ultimately about the music. Very cool artwork. And I will show you the vinyl itself. I think, did this one come with an insert? Perhaps not. See clearly, no, it doesn't. I've done my research, haven't I? No, because the lyrics are in the gatefold. And yep, here we just have plain black vinyl with the faces of the two guys. They're in. All right, so yeah, very good album. I would say if someone is, imagine theoretically, what rock have you been hiding under? But if you didn't know Immortal at all and you were looking for an album to start with, this one might be a good one, especially if you're easing into black metal, because it's mid-pace and it's very accessible compared to those earlier albums. But don't get me wrong, the earlier albums are brilliant. So there we have it, Immortal with At the Heart of Winter. All right, so that completes my Immortal vinyl. And the other one, I mentioned I would like to get I mentioned that I would like to get Blizzard Beast on vinyl. The other one I'd like to get on vinyl is the one which came after this, Damned in Black, which had a more sort of meat and potatoes, solid, heavy death metal approach, but incredibly catchy and criminally underrated album. So in essence, I think those first 6 albums by Immortal are essential, up to, from Diabolical, Fullmoon, Mysticism till Damned in Black. Yeah, so maybe one day, I'll see if I can get Blizzard Beast and Damned in Black on vinyl. Okay, so coming up to the last vinyl of the day, and we're going to a new band now. This is Impaled Nazarene with Pro Patria Finlandia. So, as I've said, I've talked about Impaled Nazarene a lot on this channel when I was going through my CD collection, the eyes in my CD collection. So, in one of my videos, I talked about the first 7 Impaled Nazarene albums in my CD collection. So, I will leave a link in the description if you want to see the reviews of those. And this one, believe it or not, is the only Impaled Nazarene album I have on vinyl. But this came after, so I have up to Absence of War. After Absence of War Does Not Mean Peace, there was the album All That You Fear, which I think you heard me mention. I found that album a bit disappointing, but this was the one that came after it, Pro Patria Finlandia, and it's an absolutely brilliant return to form for the band. So Impaled Nazarene, if you're not familiar, a well-established Finnish black metal band, one of the oldest, along with Archgoat and Beherit. And what's interesting about their sound is they don't just play black metal, but they mix it with elements of death metal and especially crust punk and sometimes even grindcore. So Impaled Nazarene has always been a very punky band, and that sort of established a tradition. Like you hear other Finnish black metal bands playing in a very punky style, like for example Horner and Goatmoon, slightly more modern bands. Yeah, they adopted a very punky approach as well, so maybe Impaled Nazarene established that. But this album is absolutely savage and relentless. It doesn't let up for a second, honestly. So the way I describe this, you might have seen this on my Instagram account as well. I said, this album combines the heaviness and aggression of metal with the fast and frantic nature of punk riffs. So yeah, you have the best of both worlds. It's extremely heavy, but also like fast and frantic, which is great. And it's very well and clearly produced, which means the drums are absolutely thunderous and pummeling. It's absolutely brilliant. And the way I would sum this album up in spirit is it's an extremely violent and nasty album, absolutely dripping with hate and contempt. So if you're in a really fucking pissed off mood, this would be a great album to listen to, definitely, because it's absolutely blasting, pummeling, relentless, hateful, spiteful, yeah, absolutely, I don't know, overwhelming, really. And like I said, this is a very good return to form after All That You Fear. I didn't get into that album so much. But how would I describe this? Like, most riffs on this are fast and blistering, but at the same time, they're melodic, not in a wimpy way, and also memorable and catchy, and never too repetitive. So in every song, there's a variety of catchy riffs, which is really good. So pretty much, in essence, I could say every song on this album pretty much is fast and blasting with very catchy riffs. I could just sum it up that way in a nutshell. So sometimes my description here will sound a bit repetitive, but don't worry, I'm not going to take long with this. So the opening track, Weapons to Tame a Land, it's got a very memorable main riff, and it's fast and blistering. The drums are absolutely thunderous. There's a great guitar solo. And track 2, Something Sinister, that's in the same vein, but even more memorable. Now, I will say that the lyrics of that song are extremely offensive, like very violent and anti-female, but I think they're just doing that for shock value, as I've mentioned before, so I never take the lyrics seriously. Then we have track 3, Goat Sodomy, which is very fast and punky and has very catchy bridge riffs. So you can see the pattern here, fast and punky, catchy riffs. And yep, track 4, Neighbor Side, so a song about killing your neighbors. Again, that's in the same vein as Weapons to Tame a Land and Something Sinister. So every song, fast, punky, catchy riffs. But I'm just showing you some of the highlights here. Then we have track 5, One Dead Nation Under Dead God. That's got a catchy chorus and some more melodic riffs actually, which remind me of Impaled Nazarene's album, Absence of War Does Not Mean Peace, which is one of my favorites, if not my favorite. Track 6, For Those Who Have Fallen, that's got a very catchy main riff. Perhaps the only sort of so-called chilled track on the album would be track 7, which is called Lucaria. That is a melodic and melancholic instrumental. So halfway through the album, it's at the end of side A, and I think that's just to bring some light relief, like an interlude, you know, in contrast to the absolutely relentless chaos which is on every single song. But then we go over to side B, track 8, Cut, and it's back to business. Extremely catchy punk riffs in that song, good guitar solos as well. So the whole album pretty much continues like this, featuring catchy riffs, but every song really has standout moments. Like for example, track 9, This Castrated World, that has circular riffs which are very catchy, and Impaled Nazarene have often done circular riffs. Track 10, Psychosis, that's got some awesome blistering guitar solos. Track 11, Contempt, has a fantastic screamed intro. By the way, the vocals on this album from Mika Luttinen, you know his style, it's very distinct, it's high pitched, but they are absolutely savage, ferocious and relentless. Like just this non-stop, blood-curdling, pissed off screaming. It fits the music so well. Also, track 12, which is I Wage War, that has some great catchy mid-pace riffs and blistering guitar solos. Track 13, entitled Cancer, that's extremely fast but has very catchy riffs. And the final track, entitled Hate, Despair, Arrogance, has some absolutely thunderous drumming and an awesome, endless guitar solo to round off the album. So you can see there is a pattern to this album. Most of the songs are just fast and punky with catchy riffs, very aggressive. So in that sense, the album is a little bit repetitive and one-dimensional, but it doesn't matter because each song has standout moments and different riffs, and the album just makes for a fun blast fest of total aggression. So if you like the sound of that, you will really enjoy this. It's relentless and uncompromising and full of energy. So Impaled Nazarene with Pro Patria Finlandia. Really cool cover. I've been to Finland a couple of times. When you go through the countryside, that's what the country looks like pretty much everywhere outside the cities, and it's fantastic. Finnish flag drenched in blood here. Oh, and you see this, the logo is embossed in silver here, so that's kind of cool. And yep, this design on the back with the machine gun. Sorry, I'm not an expert on arms and weapons, so sorry if I'm calling it by some amateurish generic name. You know, someone can correct me in the comments if they like. Yep, so it comes on this blue vinyl, which is kind of consistent with this fucking fan. So it's got blue on the cover, so it kind of matches with that. Again, that machine gun design on the label, and of course the band logo here as well. And I'll just show you, it comes in a gatefold again. No insert with this one, but just a picture of the band here. So they look like a bunch of very charming, pleasant, easygoing guys, giving everyone the finger, but cool shot under that cross. Yeah, so this is very, as I've said many times now, it's very fast, punky, black metal, but it's extremely aggressive. So if you just like that fast aggression in black metal, and you don't mind punky black metal, this album is for you, definitely. And as I said, it's a good album to listen to in a pissed off mood. Yeah, so there we have it, absolutely classic return to form. As I've mentioned, I don't own any other Impaled Nazarene albums after this one, at all, not even on CD, but I know, I was just made skeptical after All That You Fear, and then, you know, other bands come and go, so, you know, you sort of lose track, but I really should pick up some more albums by Impaled Nazarene. What's your favorite? Let me know. So that's Impaled Nazarene with Pro Patria Finlandia. All right, so that's it for today, guys. So as I said, just a quick show and tell, because with all of these, I've spoken about them before in my CD collection, or in this one, in an old collection update. But yeah, it's a show and tell to show you the visuals. So the reason I got these on vinyl is because I really like all of these albums. So when I already have them on CD, I sometimes think if the album's that good, or so good, I should say, it's worthy of also owning on vinyl, because they are sort of trophies for classic albums, in my opinion. All right, so tell me, guys, what did you think of this video? I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what you think of these albums and bands in the comments. Let's get some discussion going. And that's about it for today. I'll just say this, I think this video that I'm doing today, this is more in line with what people want. My previous video was of the vinyl tag 2025, and it fucking crashed and burned. I don't know why, because I found that one fun, actually, but with the amount of likes in proportion to the number of views, it did very badly. So sorry if people didn't like it, but I can only do my best. So yes, this is Black Metal Vinyl Volume 8, I think, but you'll see in the title anyway. So next, I'm going to go back to my CD collection. I have so much to talk about. Sometimes, you know, I'm going to go back to, you know, hard rock and heavy rock, and I know some people don't like that. Some people only want to see the extreme stuff, but rest assured, I'm changing it up all the time. So hopefully, like, every second or third video will have something for everybody. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you very much for your support of the channel. Thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you in the comments. So until next time, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Cheers.